For many years, I struggled with the several Talmudic concepts that looked very unattached or obscure, particularly when it comes to a question of value our current life. We live today, the 2015, versus the life of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th century, 1800 years ago. Furthermore, since we are the traditional people that believe in the divinity of the oral teaching, also I have it difficult to understand how we value, for example, women in a sense of, in one hand we have the highest veneration, on the other hand it appears, for those who are not so familiar, that women, like people said, it's second-class citizen, they treated them differently, etc., etc. Thank God, over the years, the deeper I delve with understanding the Talmud and the oral teaching, the more I comprehend that it's not the text, it's me, that I need to get the different perception to see the depth of our holy sages and their deep meanings. And why I'm saying that? Because today we're going to deal with the issue. First issue is what exactly the right and decision making of parents when it's come to a child, especially unborn child. And the first statement we're going to hear in the Mishnah is that the father has the right to make his son Nazirite, meaning someone who disassociates from cutting hair, from touching dead body, from drinking wine, etc. And in general, the Mishnah is going to give us a statement that the mother is not. But later, as you see, when you start digging, you see the very different understanding, which is, in short, just because we are venerating the wise, just because we understand the importance of their act of chinuch, of day in and day out, they educate the children, there is certain segment that the child expecting from the father and not from the mother. Over the years, part of my pastoral job is to talk to people who are in challenges in lives. And I can attest to the fact that many single mothers who struggle with being both father and mother have a very hard time, especially when it's come to a teenager child, and especially when it's come to a male teenager child, to operate as a father and a mother. So in short, we're going to study the story of Samuel, which we read in Rosh Hashanah. And for those who are not so familiar, so there's in the beginning of book of Samuel, the story of Elkanah, the biblical Elkanah, with 2 wives. One was named Pnina. She was fortunate to have 10 children. Hannah was childbearer. She didn't have a child. She cried, she prayed, she beseeched God, and eventually she was merited to have this beautiful baby, Samuel. But while she was in a great agony, in a great stress, she committed herself to have the son Nazir, the son who in a way dedicate to God. And one of the question is how that can be. We also, times allow, we're going to deal with other subject as well. For example, the subject of when it's come to chinuch in little further in life. They're wearing tzitzit, they're wearing the special fringes garments in conjunction to the law of kil'aim, the law of diverse kinds. But let's start with today. We're going to study page 29. We'll start on page 28b at the Mishnah. האיש מדיר את בנו בנזיר, ואין האישה מדרת את בנה בנזיר. So, general statement. You see the words here is a man declare his son as Nazir. And the question is, what do you mean? What age you're speaking about? It's before the child born, is during the very young childhood, and the mother not. What is that metziut? What is that reality? So there is a beautiful book. It's called Minchat Chinuch. And he asks a question, is that okay for parents to commit themselves before the baby is born to be Nazir, to certain lifestyles, to certain restrictions, commitments, before the baby is even born? So the question is, if you read the text in the Mishnah, you right away ask a question, is that okay? How come Hannah dedicated their son, the upcoming baby Samuel, to be the prophet? The answer, the great Khatam Sofer explained, that Samuel was born because of the tremendous amount of prayer and beseeching that Hannah was involved. We just passed the Rosh Hashanah, we're getting close to Yom Kippurim. One of the key points that we're going through in these days of oaths is when we go and pray to God, we said, Ata Zocher, the Almighty God, do you remember? You remember, you promise a good health, you promise a promotion, you promise to help me, etc. We are not going before God just to complain about our misfortunate, our mistakes we made. We come before God and we, in a way, remind God that He promised our ancestors and He's promising us. And I remember when our youngest daughter was at about bat mitzvah. So I put her one time to sleep, and I said to her, you got to sleep, etc. So she said, I want to go to Disneyland. So I said yes, and she goes, can you take me to Disneyland? I told her a story about Disney. So I said, sure. And I didn't know what I'm getting to, because right after her bat mitzvah, day in and day out, Dad, you promised me to take me to Disneyland. You promised me. And that went on and on and on, until eventually, when she was a teenager, I took her. So in our understanding is, when you go before God, on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, we said, you remember God, you promise us that you help, you promise that you straighten out, and there are so many things in life that we need to come before God and said, instead of complaining about all the misfortunate, we just, in our language, have to remind God, is our Father in heaven, full of mercy, right? That's what He promised. So Hannah was standing before God, and she was crying. The text said that her lips were moving, and she was, in a way, a very small, tiny voice, crying, God, you promise. In a sense, it's very heartening situation. Pnina have 10 children. And the text said how Pnina sometimes were mean to her. And the bottom line is, Elkanah felt for her, the husband, and the Khatam Sofer explained that he gave her, in our language, the right, the power of attorney, the capability to make those decisions, and he went along with her decision. Anyway, so here the Mishnah said, Keitzad, so there are those who take out the word Keitzad, but there are others who say that it means if the child is a minor and the father make him Nazirite. Meaning, it's, as we explained in the past several days, it's a process. It's a commitment not to drink wine, not to cut hair, not to contaminate a dead body. These 3 commitments. But there's another 3. Upon completion of the period of Nezirut, there is another stage, which is bringing a special offering. Sin offering, burnt offering, peace offering. So in that sense, the next step the Mishnah said, imagine the father, it's already allocates those animals to be used when the son completed his period of being Nazir. So we have the assumption that the son, as much as he was a minor, he displayed equanimity, he acquiesced, he agreed with the father's decision. Gilach, like typical teenager, but here it's much earlier in the stage. One day the son said, I'm sick and tired of this, I don't want, I'm out. And what did he do? He cut his hair. Or others, like the Rosh said, can be others, like start drinking wine, start contaminating to a dead body. Is like the Or Sameach explained, it's like act of rebelliousness against his father, which, by the way, it's typical part of the process of growth, right? Chemicals and the changes. Or shegilchuhu krovav, or they are relatives, and again is a discussion, what do you mean relatives? How close is the definition of relatives? But anyway, those relatives cut his hair, or shemichu krovav. There are those micha, or shemichu krovav. Either he demonstrated, he said, I'm not interested in continuing of Nezirut, even he wasn't in a state of violation, like cutting hair, or the relative said that he's not going to be part of that. So it was a great rabbi by the name of Viesblom of Brisk, great Lithuanian sage. And he explained that this concept is called Mikan Ulehaba, from here and onward. Meaning, the Rosh explained, if the baby, or the little child heard, let's say he is 8, and he right away said, no, I don't want to do that, then you don't have this matter of Nezirut continuing. But if you read carefully the Tosfot, you have all these issues of decision making. We know that in Judaism the adulthood or decision making with the boy is a bar mitzvah, is the 13 years and 1 day. So now the big question is, since the son or the relatives said, no, I'm not going to be Nazir, and the father already allocates those animals to be sacrificed. So what do you do? Hayta lo behema meforeshet. If the father had an animal that what happened, it's set aside for all these 3 items. You remember we said the number 1 is the lamb, the kivsa lechatat, and then we have a keves, male lamb for the peace, the burnt offering, and then we have the ram for the peace offering. So what do? As we explained in the past several days, when it's come to sin offering, we treat it differently. Why? You remember that? The sin offering, you need the present of the quote-unquote sinner. Since he is not here, so the same way as you treated an animal that dedicate for a sinner who is no longer among the living, you have basically to get rid of that animal, you cannot sacrifice it. So here you treat it the same way. Hachatat tamut, that sin offering has to go to left to die. V'ha'olah tikarev olah, and the burnt offering will be accepted as a burnt offering. Ushlamim yikarvu shlamim, and the peace offering will be as a voluntarily peace offering. So Why? Because we have, later on, we're going to learn there is a concept of nedava. One is not so sure, do I really need to bring this peace offering or not bring the offering, etc. So you make a declaration. Look, if it is something that needs to be an offering, it will be an offering. If not, guess what? It's going to be a gift, voluntarily gift for the communal offering. Okay? Even without the obligation to bring an offering. ונאכלים ליום אחד, and this peace offering can be used only the day of the offering and the following night, the same way as the Nazirite peace offering. ואינן טעונין לחם, but they are not required the bread that usually accompany with the peace offering of Nazir. Now, what do you do if the father did not dedicate certain animal for an offering? Two examples. Excuse me. One, we explain if it's a ma'ot meforashim, if it's a very clear dedication of money that said that clearly goes for certain purposes. That's for the burnt offering, that's for the peace offering, etc. Or ma'ot stumim, if the money is dedicated in general for the offering without specification. Meaning he didn't say that's for this purpose, sin offering, burnt offering, peace offering. Hayu lo ma'ot stumin yiplu l'ndava. If you have unspecified fund, so guess what you do? You take that money and what you do, you give it as a voluntarily communal burnt offering. Number two, ma'ot meforashim. But if it was a very clear allocated fund, so then dmei chatat, meaning you take this money and you said it's for the sin offering, for burnt offering, for peace offering. So the money for the sin offering yelchu liyam hamelach, meaning you get rid of that. Yam hamelach is meaning that you put it in a Dead Sea. In a sense, you get rid. Why? Because the moment you allocate the money for the sin offering, we treat it as equivalent to an animal of offering. And the same way as we said earlier, that animal for a sin offering cannot be brought on the altar, the same way the money cannot use, and therefore you have to get rid of that money. Lo ne'enin velo mo'alin. You're not allowed to derive any benefit from that money. And if someone violated and derive benefit, you do not treat it the same as misuse of offering. Why? Because the foundation of that money cannot be used as an offering. Dmei ola yaviu ola. If it is the money for the burnt offering, they bring a burnt offering. It is prohibited to derive benefit from those coins. Umoalin bahem. So therefore, and if someone uses it, he's liable to bring an offering for misuse of consecrated property. Dmei shlamim yaviu shlamim. Money for peace offering, they bring a peace offering. V'ne'echalin liyom echad, and it is eaten for one day, the same way as the peace offering for Nazirite. Ve'en te'unim lechem, and does not require bread. So the Mishnah is not speaking about misuse, because when it's come to peace offering, is no concept of misuse. So now we ask a question that we all ask when we start the discussion. Ish ein, aval isha lo. How come you differentiate between mother and father? So the Shita Mekubetzet brought, there are some books that eliminate that line. But anyway, the question is there. Mai ta'ama, why you differentiate? Now you see two different schools of thought. One is Rabbi Yochanan, Amar, halachai ben Nazir. So Rabbeinu Avraham Nahar explains that this is the tradition we receive from Sinai, that the father have the right to limited, circumscribe his son by imposing on him Nezirut, only the father, and don't ask questions. That's the way it is, and that's the tradition we receive from Sinai. However, Rabbi Yosei bar Rabbi Chanina, 29, Amar Reish Lakish kedei lechancho b'mitzvot. So Reish Lakish explained, the difference is no. The sages have a very important decree. And the decree is that the father should have some saying in education of his son. Let's face it, in a religious family, the father takes his son to a shul, right? David, father brings the son to a shul, and the purpose is a chinuch. The son gets used to, you bring also your daughter, right? But the idea is you bring the children to the synagogue and they get used to the mitzvah, they get used to the certain way of doing things. Now, the issue here is when it's come to this education of a child, we have to know that there's a total different attitude between the approach of what is the obligation of the father and what's the obligation of the mother. And that's what Reish Lakish thought. He figured out that you cannot impose everything on one person. As we said earlier, remember we talked about single mother that complain, you know, with all said and done, they go to this court system in this country, and then they go all this idea of child support and the custody, right? So the bottom line is, when it's all said and done, there is the issue of fatherhood, that there is a missing father, the child raised with no real entity of father, right? So there is a entity needed. That's the way Hashem created us, that there is a need. So the sages said, the father have the authority to say to his son, you will be a Nazir. For example, he wants to educate him. As you know, there are different approaches for education. There are children whom you just need to talk to them and it happens. There are children, right, you need to admonish sometimes in different ways. There's all kind of attitude to how to educate the children. So therefore, the school of thought of Reish Lakish said, that's the idea of chinuch. It's not to denigrate the important veneration of the mother. It's just a different task, different responsibility. So the Sfat Emet asked a question, what exactly you mean by saying chinuch, to teach him to do mitzvot? So he said, the Nazir, the Nazirite, he needs to bring a sin offering. Why? Because it's atonements. He caused himself sorrow from the wine. So therefore he needs to bring an atonement. So it's a famous story about the Avnei Nezer. Some said it's the Reb Chaim of Brisk. They said about a child, he ate in the on Yom Kippur. We're getting close to Yom Kippur. He ate, and his mother said to him, "Okay, you're eating on Yom Kippur, so you should say a special section, a special prayer that applies specifically for Yom Kippur." So he argued and he said the whole purpose of saying that prayer is chinuch, to educate the child that when he grew up and he be bar mitzvah, he will fast. But I'm planning to fast. So therefore, since I'm planning to fast, is no need. Ihache afilu isha nami. So if that's the case, why the mother cannot do that? Why the Mishnah said that only the father? Kasavar ish chayav lechanech bno b'mitzvot, ve'en ha'isha chayavet lechanech et bna. Here is a very deep school of thought. The truth is, the Gemara tells us in Tractate Sukkah that the mother also obligated to educate the son mitzvot. Now, how far you go? What exactly the balance? That's the discussion. We have a concept that's called Al titosh Torah timecha. The book of Proverbs said, do not forsake your mother's teaching. What does that mean? So the Magen Avraham said in Shin Mem Gimel, in chapter 343, that the mother is also obligated to educate the son. But If you remember when we studied the Tractate Nazir about Helenia Malka, the Queen of Helene, if you remember that it's a big question of education of a child, how far. So in that sense, she can go to that direction and make the child Nazir. But the next step is, like you see with the story with Samuel, as far as the structure, do I say it right? Okay. The structure of the house is different structure. It's different expectations. You cannot impose on the mother to do both and on the father to do both. Each of them has to have a share part of the education of the child. It is good and acceptable according to Rabbi Yochanan, who said that this halakha Moshe Sinai, it's applied to Nazir. Amtu lehachi bno ein bitolo. So we understand that the father can make his son Nazir and the daughter not. Why? Because that's the halakha, that's the tradition for Moses in Sinai. Ela lereish Lakish. But according to Reish Lakish, that we have a special decree in order to educate him. So afilu bito, so therefore even his daughter, kasavar bno chayav lechancho, bito eno chayav lechancha. So is a school of thought that the big obligation is upon the son. But the Gemarrah in Yoma, page 82, said no, the obligation is also toward the daughter. Bishlama Rabbi Yochanan damar alachai ben Nazir. So ahache ben zirut in ben darim lo. So here we differentiate between two entities. One is the Nezirut and one is vows, Nedarim. We say that the tradition for Moses, the old tradition applies solely for Nezirut, but not for others. Ela lereish Lakish, afilu Nedarim nami. But according to Reish Lakish, even when it's come to the vows too, so why the Mishnah speaks only about Nezirut? Lo mibaya kamar, lo mibaya bin darim deleit leinivul, ela afilu bin zirut deit leinivul, afilu hachei chayav lechancho. So you say that this applies to vows, that it doesn't apply in the sense of sorrow. The son will say this, there is you tell the son not to attach a dead body, it's not carry a sorrow. But if you tell him other things that involve in Nazirut, it may cause him sorrow. So we here differentiate between this type of vow, ela afilu ben Nazirut deit leinivul. But if you talk about Nazirut that involve with what? That you have nivul, nivul meaning you have a act of deprivation. Afilu achei chayav lechancho. Even though they impose on him because the father is obligated to teach, to train his son. So you see here the Minchat Chinuch and the Sfat Emet, others ask a question how far the father can go that. Meaning when the father wants to impose Nazirut on his child, is that for 30 days? Is that for longer time? Bishlama Rabbi Yochanan de'amar alachai ben Nazir, hanu dekatane micha, o shemichru krovav. So we understand that Rabbi Yochanan said it is orally transmitted halacha concerning the Nazir. That's what the Mishnah stated. If he verbally protested or if his relative protested. But אלא לרבי יוסי ברבי חנינא דאמר יש לקיש כל כמנהון קרובין דאמרי ללא תגמרי מצוות. But all the others, they said, do not teach your son to observe the commandments, which means why the relatives allowed to demonstrate against it? Can they avoiding the father from teaching his son to fulfill the mitzvot? They was explained. Kasavar kol chinuch delo chashiv lo nichalei. Reish Lakish hold when you have this type of method of training which does not meet the approval of a child's relative, so he is displeasing with this child. So it's a very heavy discussion among the rabbis when you have a father that suffers from all kind of psychiatric issues, mental issues, and he is beating the child, right? In all kind of, it can be verbal abuse, it can be physical abuse. So I'm not speaking here the state law, I'm speaking about rabbinic law. What exactly the boundaries? What exactly the father have the right or doesn't have the right? How far you go, which the concept of admonishing or education when the child go wild or the child misbehave. By the way, just as a side note, the Islam teaching have a lot of foundation from us, from this concept, which is the structure of how far you go. There is a book written by Muhammad al-Ghazali. Muhammad al-Ghazali was the 9th century, one of the Sufi scholars. And he wrote several books. One of them is in Arabic. It's translated to English too. It's called The Alchemy of Happiness. And in al-Ghazali, you see a lot of structure of what exactly expecting from a father, what exactly the father is supposed to do and not supposed to do, what is the restrictions. And when I read al-Ghazali, what's at the university when I learned, I saw a lot of mechanism, not only by the Rabbeinu Bachyei ben Pakuda, by the duty of the hearts, but to this Gemara in Tractate Nazir, a lot of mechanism, a lot of matching similarities. Anyway, Bishlama Rabbi Yochanan de'amar, halachai ben Nazir, it is acceptable according to Rabbi Yochanan, who said it is orally transmitted halacha concerning to Nazir. Mishum ha'achei megalach ve'avid hakafa. So that's the reason the child may shave, and he commits, which call running off. As you know, in modern days, you see those edges of the hair, right? It's a very stylish, they do that, right? אלא לרבי יוסי ברבי חנינא אמר יש לקיש כדי לחנכו במצוות ההקפה כאביד הקפה. But according to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, that said that the idea is in order to educate for the mitzvot, he did hakafa, he did around his head, and he's in violation of the Torah law. The whole concept of Nezirut is rabbinic. So kasavar hakafat kol harosh miderabanan. Reish Lakish hold that the prohibition against shaving the entire head is only rabbinic. Vechinuch miderabanan, and also the education, the teaching of the son is also rabbinic teaching. Ve'ati chinuch derabanan ve'dachei hakafa derabanan. And here you have the rabbinic obligation of training a child to mitzvot, override, supersede the prohibition of not going around the head. By the way, this is common. You see sometimes two contradicted commandments, and then the rabbi said that this one supersede or override the others. Bishlama Rabbi Yochanan damar halachai ben Nazir, ahachei megaleach umaiti korban. We understand according to Rabbi Yochanan that said it is orally transmitted halacha concerning Nazir. So it's understandable why when the son shaves, his father may bring a offering. אלא לרבי יוסי ברבי חנינא אמר יש לקיש כדי לחנכו במצוות. So how come he bring this offering that it's only rabbinic? כמאי תחולין לעזרה. He bring an unconsecrated animal into the temple courtyard. כסבר חולין בעזרה לאו דאורייתא. ריש לקיש holds that the prohibition against unconsecrated animal in the Beit HaMikdash courtyard is not scriptural. Now we go to the seventh difficulty. בישלמה לרבי יוחנן דאמר הלכה היא ונזיר. We understand these rules according to Rabbi Yochanan that say that that's applied to Nazirite. Ahache kim mitame, when, why, if the son becomes impure, maitei korban tziporin ve'achil kohen melika. So the appropriate bird offering are brought, and the kohen may eat, even they are killed by melika. We explain that there is a molek, the part of the process is the kohen do melika of the head. Rabbi Yossi Bechayin Amar Reish Lakish, that it's only in order to educate the child in a mitzvot. Haka achil nevela, you say here that the kohen eats a caresses food. The caresses meaning the dead body of animal, that because biblically speaking it's not considering a chatat, a sin offering, but only chulin, and therefore it's considering as a neveila, as a caresses. Kasavar ki Rabbi Yossi beRabbi Yehuda Reish Lakish hold the same as Rabbi Yehuda, en shchita le'of min Torah. This is very interesting because that's not the final halacha. The halacha, the Rambam said in L'chot Shchita that it is a biblical, that shchita be'of, that do the matter of slaughtering also for a birds is also biblical. But here, the school of thought was to say that it's only melika. Now, there are several points I want to elaborate. Number one is the Rav Vozhner. Rav Vozhner, the late Rav Vozhner, the very well-known posek in Nebrak, he have a case of a parents that were childbearing. They have no children for many, many, many years. And they commit themselves that when the son will grow up, he will totally devote himself to Torah. And they have a baby boy. And they did it. 25 years later, it's already married man and studying a kollel. So he came to Rav Vozhner and asked a question. He says the parents want him to continue studies. But is that commitment that they made before he was even born still in effect? So Rav Vozhner answered very wisely. He says, if your parents supported you financially and supported your wife and children, then you can keep studies. Otherwise, you don't. The same here, when it's come to Nazir, it's a chinuch that applies to a father, but you have to remember that it has to make sense. Also, I want to mention the Rambam. The Rambam speaks about the Kohen, as you know, he wearing a belt, the avnet, and the belt has a shatnez, has a mix. The Kohen have a shatnez, which is mix of wool and linen. So the law is when he does the work on the Beit HaMikdash, so he can use it. But other than that, if he's off duty, he cannot carry that shatnez. So the Shagat Aryeh asked a question.
Why we use it now, even when we don't have a temple, no, but sometimes we put it on when we're outside, like pray or get caught. People carry it in their pocket too, and they just pull it out there.
Correct. The number one nowadays, it's not the same ingredients. It's not the same fiber.
So now what we're doing is just symbolic.
No. Number one, we need to separate between the top and the bottom of the body.
Yes.
Second one is the preparation for davening.
But we use bell. So
it's different. This is the more spiritual part that you separated between the head, but it's also the idea of preparation for service.
Okay.
It's like you can call it symbolic, but the rabbis feel that it has the external have an eternal effect on a person. So anyway, the Shagat Aryeh asked, according to Reish Lakish, when you have a Kohen that's not Oved Shelo Letzorech, he is in a violation of Kilaim. Anyway, Chulin Ba'azara Lav Doraita. So he said that when it's come to Chulin that using unconsecrated animal in a temple courtyard is not scriptural. So here the question is, if you're buying a tzitzit for a boy, right? And okay, it's contain a mixed, diverse part. How come you do that if it's not bar mitzvah? We have the mitzvah taseh to wear tzitzit, positive commandment. We have lo taseh, the negative commandment of kilaim, not to wear diverse kind. So why you give it to the child? So there's a book called Trumat Adeshen. He explained that since later on this child will grow up and he will allow to do that, so therefore it's not an issue. Anyway, וסבר רבי יוסי אחי, והתניא רבי יוסי ברבי יהודה אומר מניין לחטאת העוף שהיא באה לספק, if you have a doubt, if he is obligated to bring the offering. Why? Because as we explained, when it's come to korbanot, the offering, when it's come to burn offering, peace offering, it can be a voluntarily act. You remember, if I'm obligated to bring it, here I brought it. If not, it will be a gift offering. Versus chatat and asham, versus sin offering, right, and guilt offering, you cannot bring of something that is safek, that is not clear, only asham talui. Meaning if he is not sure if he violated unwittingly of something that deserves karet. So for example, if you have 2 pieces of fat, shtei chadichot basar chelev and shuman, you're combining the 2 pieces of meat, right? So that's called asham talui. That's or you have yoledet, the woman that deliver a baby. So it's not clear if it's a baby, it will be a regular one, or nefel, the one who passed in the 30 days. So that's called safek chatat ha'of, something that maybe. So that's the Gemarrah. Rabbi Yosef bar Rabbi Yehuda said, when it's come asham talui, something that is not clear, it's one safek. So versus when it's come chatat ha'of, kohen, he does this act of melika. והתניא רבי יוסי בר רבי יהודה אומר, מניין לחטאת העוף שהיא באה לספק, שאינה נאכלת, תלמוד לומר, ועזב את זובו לזכר ולנקבה. We're running out of time, right? So let's do it quickly. מקיש נקבה לזכר. מה זכר מביא קורבן על הוודאי? אף נקבה מביאה קורבן על הוודאי. ומה זכר מביא על הספק? אף נקבה מביאה על הספק. So you see here that male and female may bring for the uncertain situation. In both cases, the sin offering consists of a bird. So Beit Yitzchak and the Beit Halevi too bring Tosfot Yeshanim, a big discussion about eating kezait, how you treated kezait, the small of olive bark. Rav Kanievsky said that all the discussion here speaks about of katan me'od, the very small bird. Anyway, ומה זכר ממין שהוא מביא על הוודאי, מביא על הספק, אף נקבה ממין שמביאה על הוודאי, מביאה על הספק. מה זכר מביא קורבן ונאכל. The same way as the male who bring an offering out of uncertainty and it's eaten by a kohen. אף נקבה מביאה קורבן ונאכל. The same applied to נקבה, to female. אמרת, so Tosfot said, you said, as a refutation of this argument, 29b, לא. So you cannot make this claim. Why? היא אמרת בזכר שכן איסור אחד. If you tell me that with regard to male bringing an offering, only once uncertain prohibition, which means חולין, non-sacred animal, to the temple courtyard, תאמר בנקבה ששני איסורים, you speak about the female, it's given 2 prohibition, so that's considering chulin. Okay, you said 2. One is chulin ba'azara, and also basar of shelo nishchat. You have 2 components here. Meaning that beginning it was a baby and then it turned to be a nefel. מה שני איסורים? לאו איסור נבלה וחולין בa'azara. So you have 2 different prohibitions. One is the nevela and one is the chulin ba'azara, to bring unconsecrated in the temple courtyard. So he holds that it's only rabbinic. Matkif la Rabba Chabred Ravika, ודילמה מחייב עליהם משום דמתחזה כזרי איסורים דרבנן. This is a very well-known concept that it's appears, which means the Kohen is liable for eating a bird of sin offering because it appears that he is a violation of rabbinic view. So Reb Chaim Oizer and Or Sameach explained that is a three different isurim, it's three different prohibition. It's the idea of you have melika and you have tuma ba'azara and you have safek b'rshut rabim. Anyway, so from this you have another issues that the rabbis raise is flying over graves is the issue, or flying over the holy temple, or even sending a drone over this place is the issue. Why? Because if you tell me that the tuma boka ve'olea, that the impurities go up to heaven with no limitations, so anything in that domain is as high as can be. Right, Dr. Friedman? למה כתנאי, עד מתי מדיר את בנו בנזיר? עד שיביא שתי שערות. דברי רבי יוסי בר יהודה אומר, עד שיגיע לעונת נדרים, which means the 12 years of age. מה אליו תנאי? רבי סבר על החי בנזיר, אף על גב הגיע לעונת נדרים, מדיר לבאזילה דמאית שתי שערות. That's the הלכה למשה מסיני, ורבי יוסי בר יהודה אמר, עד שיגיע לעונת נדרים סבר, כדי לחנכו למצוות, וכיוון דפק מרשותי, תו לא מחייב, אמרי לא. דכולי על מה לחי בנזיר, ואח המופלא סמוך לאיש כמפליגי. Here you talk about a situation that he is very close to the age, the proper age, so it's almost 12. So Rabbi Sabar Mufla Samuch Leish. Rabbi holds that the vow uttered by an informed minor who is in the verge of adulthood is valid only on the rabbinic level. And therefore the Rabbanan, and therefore the Torah law supersedes the capacity of a mature minor to make vows which is only a rabbinic origin. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Savar Mufla Samuch Leish Deoraita. He holds that the other way around, that the informed minor who is in the verge of adulthood is the Torah, it's a scriptural validity. מבית תימה דכולי עלמא כדי לחנכו במצוות מופלא סמוך לאיש דרבנני. רבי סבר תכנו דרבנן ודחי מופלא סמוך לאיש דרבנן, ורבי יוסי ברבי יהודה דאמר עד והגיע לו שהגיע לעונת נדרים כסבר לא תכנו דרבנן ודחי מופלא סמוך לאיש. So there's a big discussion of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Rav Wozner and others, if mufla samuch leish, if you have a boy that is getting close to his bar mitzvah, and he said to his fellow, I prohibited this item from you. Is that mufla samuch leish, that since he is getting close to his bar mitzvah, is that take effect the same as someone who's already bar mitzvah or not? So in short, you have to be careful. You have to train these children when they get the certain age, that the expression that you have out of your mouth, we take it in such a serious way that when you pass the bar mitzvah, it's in total effect. And if you're getting close to that, you should be careful.